What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Criterion Corner. This is the segment on my channel where I choose a film from the Criterion collection or that's streaming on the Criterion channel and talk about it in great detail. And if you can't tell, I've been doing a ton of these lately. I feel like I've been watching a lot of movies that I've wanted to see for quite some time now. And I am ashamed to admit, as a graduate of film school, I've never seen a John Cassavetes movie, ever. I've seen clips of them in some of my classes, but I never watched a Cassavetes film in full. And I obviously am an avid Letterboxd user. I really appreciate watching their videos and their content that they make on social media. And I've noticed when they interview actors, this movie comes up probably more than anything else, which made me want to see it. When this many people in the industry are referencing a movie over and over and over again, you know that there's got to be something about it that makes it incredibly special. And I know Cassavetes has been talked about over the years as just one of the greatest talents to ever create film, which made me very excited to watch this movie. And the film I'm going to be discussing with you today is A Woman Under the Influence. A Woman Under the Influence is directed by John Cassavetes. Mabel Longetti, desperate and lonely, is married to a Los Angeles municipal construction worker, Nick. Increasingly unstable, especially in the company of others, she craves happiness, but her extremely volatile behavior convinces Nick that she poses a danger to their family and decides to commit her to an institution for 6 months. Alone with a trio of kids to raise on his own, he awaits her return, which holds more than a few surprises. So I was super excited to watch this movie, and you never really know what you're getting into when something is hyped up to this level. Is it ever going to achieve the expectations that people have set for it? And what I will say is, this isn't hyperbole. I truly believe this is one of the greatest movies ever made. I was so emotionally impacted by this movie. There were several times that I had to pause it because of how hard it made me cry. I am someone, I've talked about this very openly. I have a very broken relationship with a lot of my family, including my parents. It is something that has really sort of consumed me for a lot of my life, and there were some things in this movie that unlocked elements of that I'm not always willing to confront head on. And I think that is power of incredible cinema, is when something can touch you to that level and move you in that sort of way. And I cannot wait to talk about this movie with you today. So at the beginning of the film, we are introduced to a couple, Nick and Mabel Longetti. Nick is played by the incredible Peter Falk, and Mabel is played by the incredible Gena Rowlands. And the two of them, early on in the movie, are supposed to have a get-together. And we see Mabel at the beginning of the movie loading her kids up into her mother's car, and we could tell that she's a little on edge. She has some anxiety about the situation. She wants to make sure the kids have everything that they need. And she's clearly an incredible mother. She loves her kids and she will do anything in the world for them. And she goes back into the house and she waits on her husband. Well, her husband, Nick, he works a municipal job. He's supposed to be going home to her to go on this, or to have this date where the kids aren't going to be home. But a water main explodes and the city calls him. He's not able to get there. And he tells all the guys that he works with, he's afraid to call her at home because she's not all there. He essentially says multiple times she's not normal. She doesn't have typical reactions to situations. And we cut back to her and she is at home and you can see she's incredibly depressed. Like, she wanted to spend this time with her husband and she ends up going out to these bars, and it's sort of unnatural the way she goes in and out, and she ends up spending time with this guy who later on, after she gets very drunk, she mistakes for her husband. She thinks that that's who it is. And the man ends up leaving, and Nick ends up eventually coming home with all the guys from his job, and she makes them a meal. And we see very early on in the movie, Mabel doesn't seem all with it. It's not like she's completely consumed by something, but her mental headspace, how she interacts with people, her anxiety societally. She's afraid to joke too much or do things because she's afraid of how she'll be perceived as crazy or not all with it, which eventually leads to her sort of completely and totally becoming unstable. And Nick eventually loses it, has no patience with her anymore, and checks her into an institution. And the film is seeing the after effects of that situation, what Nick has to do with taking care of his kids, waiting on his wife to come back home, and how that sort of impacts their entire family dynamic. So like I said, I truly believe this is one of the most remarkable films ever made, and there are a multitude of reasons why. I want to start off with the performances. Peter Falk is incredible as Nick. I think he does a really fantastic job. Nick is a husband who is incredibly flawed. He is not the greatest person at all. He is very mean towards his wife. He calls her crazy. He calls her a lunatic. He doesn't understand his wife's mental illness to the point where there's really any level of compassion when he gets frustrated. He just lashes out and says things about her. And it is clear that he loves her, he cares about her, but he's also violent. He hits her when he gets upset, and he's not the greatest person. And rather than like be patient or consult people, because of how consumed he is in his job, and he clearly doesn't have control over his own emotions, he just goes to the quickest solution to sort of get himself out of it. And we can see he's sleep deprived, he's got all these things going on, and Peter Falk does such an amazing job sort of conveying where this character is at mentally and exposing his flaws while also showcasing like he does love his wife, he just doesn't know what to do. Realistically, he has no idea how to handle this situation because he doesn't understand her. And that leads me into Gena Rowlands' performance in this movie might go down in my top 5 performances I've ever seen in a film. This is what acting is all about. She commands the screen. Every tick that she has, the way she moves her face, the way her eyes move, the way she'll just like not even say things, but just like mouth words to people, and how she just commands scene after scene after scene. I was mesmerized for this almost 2.5 hour runtime. I did not want to look away because of how amazing that she is. Her performance destroyed me. Like, this is a woman who clearly has something going on mentally, and she doesn't know what it is. She has no idea how to control it, but she is an incredible mother and she loves her kids. And this is getting in the way of her relationship with her children. It's clear her and her husband's relationship is not perfect. They have a ton of problems. She loves him, or at least she thinks that she loves him, but there is a separation because he doesn't know how to deal with her dealing with her mental health issues. And because of that, it creates a ton of conflict, and he is impatient and he can be incredibly rude, where she just wants to be normal. She wants to take care of her kids. And there are so many moments. There's a scene in particular in this that, like, it's making me emotional even thinking about it, but she's sitting on the porch with her kids and she's literally asking her young children if they think that she's normal. Like, do you think mommy's weird? And I really have never seen a performance in a movie that felt just so incredibly real. Everything about the way that she was responding, like, and Peter Falk as well, and everyone else in this movie, they don't feel like actors. They just feel like people. And it's really remarkable. The child actors in this movie too are fantastic. Like, their response to the situation and how they're dealing with it, it just all felt like a family truly going through this situation. Visually speaking, the cinematography is incredible. There are so many great editing moments in this movie. The way that it captures, most of the film takes place in their house, and I feel like the way it captures the space and how things sort of play out, it's just remarkable. You feel almost kind of trapped in this space with these characters trying to go through this situation that no one really knows how to respond to. And through the visuals, it just really worked well. And the music in this is remarkable. I loved the utilization of music in the film. I feel like it really helped completely and totally capture that atmosphere in a way that I never wanted the movie to end. I was just so interested in what direction it was going to go. And like I said, I'm someone who I have a very broken family. Both of my parents have their own mental health issues, and the way that they have treated each other. They got a divorce, very difficult divorce with a lot of sloppy, terrible things that happened. And I witnessed a lot of things in my youth, in my childhood, and even in my early adulthood that I feel like, while not necessarily completely similar to the situation in this film, as a younger kid and then even growing up, you have a perception of who your parents are. They are the people who are supposed to take care of you. Most people idolize their parents and think of them as inhuman almost. Like, when your mom and dad, you're supposed to be above everything, correct? Well, that's wrong. Parents are humans. They are people very capable of making mistakes. And I think Cassavetes does a brilliant job showcasing these are just people that are fundamentally flawed. And what I love about this movie is you can view it as incredibly straightforward, but there's also a ton of different interpretation that you can make from it. Obviously, you can look at this as simply a marriage that someone is going through a mental health issue. The husband has no idea how to deal with it. His work is incredibly consuming, which causes him to act out. He's not patient. He's not willing to really understand what's going on. He's just like, fix it. And it's seeing these two people and how they respond. And a woman who all she wants to do is love her kids and be a mother and have a life. And she can't because everyone around her perceives her as a nut job. And so it's like her grasping with those things. Like, towards the third act of the movie, when Gena Rowlands' character is coming back from the institution and she's scared to even talk because she's afraid people are going to think that she's nuts. And I was just broken apart by that. And I also think it's interesting to look at this film through the perspective of societal expectations on women. Because if you look at her character, like early on when Nick's coworkers come home with him and they're eating this spaghetti, she's like telling jokes and like someone's singing opera and she like gets in their face because she's like, how are you singing that way? And like the jokes that she tells with her kids, and everyone's just like, you're doing too much, you need to calm down. I feel like I heard people say you need to calm down like 100 times during this movie, specifically to her character. And isn't that just directly reflective of societal expectations set on women by men? People like getting frustrated with women expressing themselves and telling jokes and putting themselves out there. And sure, there's moments in this movie where you could say, well, not necessarily, because she takes it to an extreme degree. But I don't think that matters. I think even if you want to take this as straightforward or kind of offshoot it as like, okay, this is the way that women are perceived, and this is like a woman who has just become completely fed up with it, and she's like confused as to why she can't just be herself. I think no matter what avenue you choose to analyze this and break it down, it's impactful both ways. I was thinking about it in regards to both situations, and it just truly was a beautiful film that's very hard to watch. The last like 20 minutes of this movie, it's like grating on your emotions because it keeps going, and it's like Cassavetes saying, you don't get to look away because these characters don't get to look away. This is life, and that's what I loved so much, and I can't wait to watch more Cassavetes because this is a depiction of people's lives where you are just sitting with them and experiencing it. And I think both characters, Peter Falk has this moment that I thought was amazing, that he went to the beach with his kids and he just sort of breaks down. I just want to have fun at the beach with my kids. And he can't do it because he's thinking about his wife being in an institution and that he sent her there. And you can tell he feels horrible about it, but he also didn't know how to respond to it. And I just think complexity in character writing is something that I love the most about filmmaking. And these are some of the most complex characters that I've ever watched in a movie. I have not stopped thinking about this since I watched it. I think it is truly one of the greatest films ever made, and I can't wait to pick up a Criterion copy of this so that I can watch it again and again and again. So have you seen A Woman Under the Influence? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was remarkable. If you are a fan of film, watch this immediately. It's one of the greatest movies ever made. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.